This is where real conversations happen. Welcome to Sit Down Sundays on the Final Boss podcast, where the movers, the creators, the ones really making things shake, pull up, sit down and talk different. No filters, no fluff, just raw stories, real journeys, and the mindset behind success. From influencers to entrepreneurs to visionaries turning ideas into empires, we tap in with the people who don't just talk about it, they live it. This ain't just an interview, this is a seat at the table. So lock in, listen close, and learn how bosses move. Sit Down Sundays, only on the Final Boss podcast. New era, same boss.
Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast. Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, man. It is Sunday night, and this is Sitting Down Sundays with the one and only, the Final Boss. Woo-hoo! Look, I got a great show for you tonight. Tonight's show is a little bit different. It's a little bit different from our normal shows, man, and what we've been doing on Sunday night. But it's needed, right? It's needed. It's one of those things that you're like, aha, I needed to hear that, or aha, why didn't he do this before now? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I had a need to. Because season 2, or I should say GOTIME 2, wasn't ready. But now GOTIME 2 is coming out, and it should be out, God willing, this week, right? It should be out, God willing, this week. I'll give you more details on that, and I'm going to drop the link. You know what? My publisher already updated the link. Go check the link. You can see the information on the book, but the book isn't out yet for purchasing. But it will be out this week. So go check it out, man. Check it out on the link right there at the bottom, right there, right? Check it out. So, right? So we're going to be talking about GOTIME 1, GOTIME 2, man. We're going to be doing like a recall of all that information from both books, combining it and applying it to everyday life, right? Because that's what we do, man. That is what we do. We do all things and apply them, right? That's what we do. So if this is your first time here, welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, right? Season 4, Arc 5, The Declaration, Season 4, The Rebirth, episode number 282, on our way to episode 300, man. Episode 300, which is the harvest. Episode 300 is the harvest, right? Man, that's season 5. I can't believe it, man. I need to start working on those marketing materials for it, because it'll be here before you know it. And if you don't know, for the shows we're on 5 days a week at 9 p.m. live Eastern time. For those shows are being revamped, right? They're being revamped with new content, new concepts, and new graphic works. I'm giving them the entire workover, right? 4 shows are changing. Only show that is staying is Merger Wednesday, right? Merger Wednesdays. Can't change that. That is staying, right? But Merger's book year 1 is almost finished. Merger book year 1 is almost finished, man. So that'll be 5 books in 3 years. Right? I think that's maybe it was 2 years. No, it was 2 years. Yeah, 5 books in 2 years, man. 5 books in 2 years. The second book comes out this week, right? And I got 3 more in the chamber that'll be out soon. So look out for those, man. And I greatly appreciate everyone. Hey, Jacondi, I see that you're in the building. Who else is in the building? Who else is in the building, man? The hardest working man. You know this, man. You know this, right? Let's see who else is in the building, man. Who's in the building right now, right? Oh man, we got a whole list of names here on the building. It's too many to. I see you guys. I was going to name, but it's too many. So I give everybody a just due. Maybe next time, right? Maybe next time. I know. But look, we're here. We're here now. We're going to get into it in a few minutes. I got a few more admin notes. If you have it, check out the link. But if you have it, make sure you go get GOTIME 1. You're going to need GOTIME 1 to understand GOTIME 2. They're a pair, right? And that's how they're written, right? GOTIME 2 is written off the premise that the reader understands what happened in GOTIME 1. And the same thing is going to be the same formula is for GOTIME 3 in any book after that, right? You have to have the first one before you get the second one before you get the third one, and 1 and 2 before you get 3. That's how I wrote them, I should say. So, right, get that. Go make sure we're at episode number 282. Make sure you go check out our website, man, at thefinalbosspodcast.com, www.thefinalbosspodcast.com, and see all of our episodes, man, in long form, of course, right? They're all out there on our website. Then you want to be on the town hall, or you want to just shoot us an email, give us some feedback, anything for any particular show, any particular segment, shoot us an email at info@thefinalbosspodcast.com. That's info@thefinalbosspodcast.com. Listen, Vital Signal is going to change the world. Vital Signal is going to change the world. It's the app I developed, and it will be out very soon. As soon as it gets through the approval process with Google Play Store. As soon as it's finished, you guys will have it in your hands for free. Vital Signal is free. It's a free app, and it will change the world. I'm telling you right now, right here on the Final Boss Podcast, and it will be out soon, right? As soon as it gets through that arduous process, right? But it's almost done. So, got those out the way, man. Those are the admin notes, man. Drop in the chat, man. Drop it in the chat. Throw a fist emoji up or something, man. If you're here with us, if you're part of the Final Bosses, motivators, warriors, right? Motivators. Drop it in the chat. Which one are you, right? Are you a motivator? Are you a warrior? Are you a final boss? Drop it in the chat, right? So let's get into it. But before we do that, the greeting of the day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And this is for entertainment purposes only. Entertainment purposes only. And before we start, the brass tacks of the evening. The brass tacks of the evening comes from none other than moi, right? And here's the brass tacks. It's a short one. You might miss it, so pay attention. The train has left the station. That's the brass tacks, man. The train has left the station, right? So we're gonna have some fun, man. Final Boss family, right? For those who are new and those who aren't new, welcome, right? Welcome. And for those who are truly enjoying the show, welcome back. We missed you, right? But before we get into tonight's episode, man, right? I need you to answer one question only. I need you to answer it honestly, right? And honestly, right now, where you're sitting, right? Are you standing on the platform, or are you already on the train? That's the question, right? Are you standing on the platform, or are you already on the train? Right? Now think about that. Sit with that. Right? Sit with it. Because tonight we are doing something different, right? As I stated a few minutes ago. And we're not previewing something new. We've done this before, right? We're not teasing a launch date. No, I already gave you that information. Tonight, Sitting Down Sunday goes all the way back to the first station stop. And we're riding this line all the way through to exactly where the train stands right now in this moment, right? No skipping cars, no shortcuts through the tunnel, right? We're doing a complete recap of Go Time. All aboard the fired up train and Go Time 2, the train has left the station. 2 books, right? 2 tiers of the architecture, 1 trilogy that's not finished yet. Hint, hint. Air quotes, right? Trust me, it's finished. And here's why we're doing this. Right? And instead of doing it after Go Time 2 drops, because I want you to walk into the release already fluent in the information. I don't want you walking in the code. I want you walking in as somebody who already knows the 6 pillars by name, who already knows the building blocks of reward and what that means, who already understands why the train had to leave the station in the first place before it could even come back around to pick you up, right? Because if you get a chance and you read both books, right? At least if you read book 1, and you could come back to this when you get book 2. And when you do that, it'd be a refresher for you, right? It'd be like a re-anchor. And it'll be like a subtle reminder of what you already built. And if you've already read book 1, then this is your runway into book 2, right? And this before it drops. And if you haven't read either one yet, buckle in, because by the end of this episode, you're going to understand exactly what you're missing. You're going to run to the stores and be like, man, I got to have this book. I got to have these books. That's the whole point, right? So I want to be straight with you about what this isn't, right? This is not a highlight reel. This is not a buy my book story or episode or commercial dressed up as an episode, right? This is the architecture laid bare, segment by segment, and only the way we can do things and the way we do things on this show and everything that we do on this show, right? 6 pillars, 6 building blocks, 3 tiers, 1 mission. And no, before you ask, we are not touching Go Time 3, right? The train stays stilled. Tier 3 is not open for previews. Not yet anyway, right? But tonight is about where we've been and exactly where we stand right now in this moment. And today, with the platform clear and the next departure not yet called, we're going to get on board that fired up train, right? And we're going to ride it all the way through. So here's the shape of the next hour or so, right? We're going to be talking about book 1 from front to back. The premise, the foundation, the 6 pillars, the fired up train experience itself, and the bestseller moment that proved the framework works. Then we're going to cross the bridge into book 2. Why it had to exist, the 6 building blocks of reward, the deep dive chapters, and the protection and warfare systems that make up the most tactical stretch of this trilogy. And we're going to close with an honest, no spin status update on where the train stands right now. So final bosses, smarts, motivators, warriors, this is your recap. Man, let's go. The fired up train is ready and we get ready to get into it, man. First stop is cost confession. Right? Oh, let me get rid of the banners. The banners must go. Banners are out of here, right? So, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that Go Time 1 was easy to write, because it wasn't. In the format that it was written in, I wrote it like a textbook, right? And I did that with high levels of intent, right? It wasn't easy, right? And if I told you that, and you would know I was lying to you. And this show doesn't do that, right? So here's the real cost. I was building the 6 pillars framework at the same time I was running the podcast every single week. At the same time I was building Sat Diginet, right? At the same time I was trying to finish my master's, right? Grinding through all the papers, research, man, that had nothing to do with publishing a book. There was no lane where GOTIME 1 got to exist by itself. It got built in the cracks, early mornings, late nights, time that should have gone to rest, but instead went to a manuscript that at that time had no guarantee of ever becoming anything, right? That was the discipline pillar, right? That's pillar 3 in the book. I lived that one before I even wrote a word about it, because writing consistently while running 3 other full-time responsibilities is the compound interest chapter made real, and the sacrifice pillar, which is pillar 2. That one costs me the most, right? Sacrifice means something has to go. For me, it was sleep first. Then it was some relationships that couldn't survive the schedule. And eventually it was the comfort of not knowing whether any of this would even land with anybody at all. I had no clue. And then there was real doubt, of course, in the process, because that's what happens. Not manufactured, not for the podcast, but we're talking about real doubt about whether a systems-based framework for character transformation would resonate with anybody outside of my own head. It made sense to me, so I thought it would make sense to somebody else, right? And I want to be honest. I want to be honest about that very thing, right? Because too many people hear Amazon bestseller, Amazon #1 bestseller, all that lingo, right? And assume the whole process was clean. I'm here to tell you it wasn't. It wasn't clean at all. It was built the way the train itself gets built, plank by plank, track by track, through resistance, not around it, right? And here's the thing about the family inheritance piece, because it's in the book and it's real. I write candidly in GOTIME 1 about what I inherited from my own family, the good and the lessons that came from what wasn't good. And that's not a comfortable thing to put in print. For those writers out there, you guys know. That's a cost too. Putting your own formation on a page for strangers to read, right? So when we get to the bestseller segment later on, right, I want you to remember this one thing. The framework didn't come from theory. It came from cost, right? That's why it's called the fired up train and not the comfortable one, right? Now, let's get on board the fired up train and head on over to the second destination, which is the premise. GOTIME 1, the premise, right? So let's get into the actual book. GOTIME 1 opens with a section called I Am Here. And if you read it, you know this isn't a normal introduction. It's a declaration, repeated, stacked, building momentum line by line, the same way the pillars themselves build on top of each other. I am here to tell you that everything you've been told about success is incomplete. I am here to reveal that character isn't just important, it's everything. I am here to show you that excellence isn't accidental, it's engineered, right? Now, that last line is the entire premise of the book in one sentence. Excellence isn't accidental, it's engineered, right? GOTIME 1 is not a motivational pep talk. It's a systems document disguised as one. Because the truth is this: systems without motivation didn't move. And motivation without systems doesn't last, right? The central transformation the book promises is chess piece to chess master, right? Passenger to conductor, right? Dreamer to final boss. Yes, dreamer to final boss. 3 versions of the same arc. All 3 show up throughout the book because repetition is how the framework actually sticks, right? And then there's the metaphor that gives the whole book its name: the fired up train, right? Not a train that's already moving effortlessly down a smooth track, a fired up train, right? Meaning something had to be lit first. Coal in the furnace, pressure building with deliberate intent. The train doesn't move because it wants to, it moves because something inside it got ignited. And that ignition is the work of the first 3 chapters, which we'll get into later on, right? I Am Here also does something structurally important. It addresses all 4 community pillars directly. Smarts, because you're smart enough to know there's more than mediocrity. Final bosses, because you're destined to refuse settling. Motivators, because you'll inspire others once you've built this in yourself. And warriors, because this is a battle against your own limitations before it's a battle against anything external. And that's not an accident. That's the same 4-pillar audience this show has been built around since day one, which is exactly why the book and the podcast were always going to be 2 expressions of the same architecture. The premise closes with a direct challenge, not a suggestion. Your go time is now. Your fired up train is waiting. The question the book asks isn't whether you're ready, it's whether you're here, right? Present, committed, prepared to transform from who you are into who you're meant to become. Everything after that opening session is how, right? That's the how. So let's get on board the next destination, the foundation for final bosses, right? The foundation for final bosses. Now, part 1 of Go Time is 3 chapters. And it's the foundation the entire rest of the book stands on. This is tier 1 territory. It's about who, yes you, who you, yes you, be. Who you be. Not what you build or how you execute. Character first. Always character first, right? So, chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the final boss mindset, right? Your identity revolution. And this chapter does the hardest work in the whole book, right? Because it's not asking you to change your behavior yet. It's asking you to change your identity first, because behavior that isn't rooted in identity doesn't survive contact with resistance, right? You can force a new habit for a week through willpower. You cannot force a new identity because it has to be revolutionized, which is why the chapter uses that exact word and language, right? Then there's chapter 2. Chapter 2 is the systems thinking for peak performance. And this is where the book pivots from identity to structure. Because once you revolutionize who you believe you are, the book insists you need systems, not just intentions, to carry the identity into daily performance. This is the chapter that separates Go Time from a standard motivational book, because motivational books usually stop at identity. This one keeps going into the actual architecture of how peak performance gets sustained. Now, chapter 3, right? Chapter 3 closes part 1 with the integration matrix, right? Where smarts meets systems. This chapter is the synthesis point, right? It takes the identity work from chapter 1 and the systems work from chapter 2 and shows how they have to integrate, not operate separately. A smarts mindset without systems burnout. Systems without a smarts mindset behind them become mechanical and hollow. The integration matrix is where those two forces get fused together into something that can actually hold weight, right? Now, why does this matter for recap tonight? Because everything that comes after part 1, the 6 pillars, the fired up train experience, assumes you've done this foundational work first, right? If you skip part 1 and jump straight to the pillars, you're building tier 2 capabilities on top of tier 1 foundation that was never poured. The book is sequenced this way on purpose: identity, then systems, then integration. Only after that does it hand you the 6 pillars, right? Foundation for final bosses isn't a warm-up. It's load bearing, right? It's load bearing. And everything stands on these 3 chapters, right? So let's move on to the next destination. Let's talk about something I love to say and bark on all the time, right? Let's talk about the 6 pillars of success. That is our next destination. All aboard the fired up train. Let's go. Let's go. I am your conductor. Tickets, please. Give me the damn tickets. Yeah, you give me your ticket, right? Now, the 6 pillars of success, which is part 2, is the engine room of GOTIME 1. 6 chapters, 6 pillars, and this is the section most people quote back to me most often because it's the most operational part of the book, right? Now let's get into it. Let's talk about pillar 1. Pillar 1 is motivation, right? Engineering your drive, right? And not motivation from an energy standpoint, but motivation from a point of discipline, right? Not waiting for motivation to show up, but engineering it deliberately. The same way you would engineer anything else that needs to perform reliably under pressure, right? Now, let's talk about pillar number 2. Pillar number 2 is sacrifice, right? Sacrifice, man, the strategic resource allocation. And I told you in the cost confession, right, that this was the one that got hit the hardest for me personally. And it's also the one I watch readers stall on the most. Sacrifice isn't romanticized in this book. It's treated as resource allocation. It's cold. It's strategic. It's unemotional, right? Something finite has to move from one place to another, and that's it, right? Now let's talk about pillar number 3, right? Pillar number 3 is one of my favorites. Consistency, man, consistency. You don't have anything if you're not consistent, right? Consistency. The compound interest of excellence, right? The compound interest of excellence is consistency. And this is the pillar that connects directly to chapter 2's system thinking. Because consistency isn't about intensity. It's about the compounding effect of small repeated actions. I call them micro actions, micro transactions. And it's the same way interest compounds in financial accounts. Most people underestimate this pillar because it doesn't feel dramatic in the moment. And, you know, people love drama, but this ain't it, right? That ain't it. Now, pillar number 4. Pillar number 4 is another one of my favorites, right? Pillar number 4 is perseverance, right? Perseverance is the strategic long-term execution. This is the pillar built for the multi-year horizon, right? Not the multi-week one. We're talking about long-term, right? That's where perseverance kicks in. And the fifth pillar, persistence, right? Then you're probably like, wait a minute, consistency, perseverance, persistence, they sound a lot alike, but they're very different if you understand the definitions. Very, very different, right? Because persistence is the tactical breakthrough mastery. Because through persistence, you're playing the long game. And how it differs from perseverance is this. Persistence is the sharp push through a specific immediate obstacle, whereas perseverance is overarching, right? Perseverance would be a year, 365 days. Persistence would be from seconds to minutes to days, right? That's the difference, right? The immediate obstacle, get through 24 hours, right? That's persistence. The book deliberately separates these two. So if you haven't read it, go read it, right? You'll see it. Because they get treated as synonyms everywhere else. People make that mistake doing that. Perseverance is strategic. Persistence is tactical. You need both. And you need to know which one at any given moment you're calling for, right? You got to be calling out the right thing, especially when you're riding this fired up train, right? And pillar number six. Let's close it out with resilience, right? The anti-fragile operating system. This is the most sophisticated pillar in the book because resilience isn't framed as just bouncing back. It's framed as anti-fragile, right? Meaning a system is designed to get stronger from the stress, not just recover to the baseline. That's a meaningfully higher bar than resilience is usually held to, right? And it's the right note to end the 6 pillars on because it sets up everything that comes later on in the trilogy about building systems that don't just survive pressure, they're improved by it, right? 6 pillars, character built brick by brick, rebar by rebar, wall by wall, slab by slab. And if you notice, none of these 6 chapters talk about money or capability or execution systems. That's deliberate. Tier 1 stays in its lane, who you be completely before the book even touches what you build. That discipline and the sequences is exactly why GOTIME 2 had to be a separate book and not just an appendix tacked onto this one, right? Now, let's move on. Let's move on to the next destination, the next station, right? All aboard the fired up train, and we're going to all aboard the fired up train experience, right? The whole train experience. So, part 3 is labeled directly in the book as enhanced podcast material, right? And if you've been with the show for a while, you'll recognize the DNA in these 4 chapters immediately because this is where the book and the podcast fuse completely, right? Chapter 10 is discovering your why, right? That's something else I hop on or hark at people all the time. Discovering your why. Yes, your why. The cornerstone of magnificence. This chapter sets the emotional floor under everything else in part 3. Without a why, the pillars from part 2 are just 6 disconnected disciplines. The why is what turns them into a coherent train instead of 6 separate train cars sitting on different tracks, right? Then chapter 11 is fortified, dignified, signified in your belief of self, baby. You hear what I just said? Did you hear what I just said? Listen, chapter 11 was probably the chapter I enjoyed writing the most, right? Fortified, dignified, signified in your belief of self, baby. You heard that, man? Listen. Listen. 3 words, 3 states of belief, building on each other. Fortified means your belief can withstand an attack. Trust me. Your nukes, whatever you... Listen, I probably should have said that. But whatever you got, I got it, right? I can handle it. Listen, that's what I built this off of, right? Fortified means your belief can withstand an attack. And that's important, right? You have to have thick shoulders. You do, man. You do, right? People's words are just people's words, man. Brush that shit off, man. Brush it off, right? They can't hurt you, right? It's not a physical attack. Nobody's punching you in your eye. Nobody's doing the Mike Tyson on you. Listen, they're just words. Dignified means it holds up under scrutiny. You got to know what you're talking about, right? And you have to know what you're talking about, right? You jump out there, you better be dignified about what you're saying, and you better believe it, right? And it better hold up under scrutiny, right? It just has to. Then let's talk about signified. Because signified means it's been marked, made visible, made real enough that other people can see it in you before you even say a word about it, right? Yeah. Fortified, dignified, signified in your own belief of self, man. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, right? Then chapter 12. Chapter 12 was the momentum code. You got to keep it, right? You got to keep the train moving through any storm, man. It doesn't matter. You have to keep moving. And this is a chapter that answers the question everybody eventually asked after they built the 6 pillars. What happens when a storm hits, right? Well, the momentum code exists because pillars alone don't guarantee momentum. You need a specific code, a specific protocol for what to do when conditions turn against you. And that's exactly what this chapter delivers, right? Now, let's talk about chapter 13, right? Let's talk about chapter 13. Chapter 13 closes out part 3. And it's the whole book's core teaching, right? With a direct challenge to you. What will you forego? What will you forego? I used to play this thing, man. It was this video meme that I would play every morning when I was going through this process. 5 a.m. I'm outside. I'm outside, man, doing what I needed to do mentally. And I just kept replaying it. What will you forego? What will you forego? And it just kept playing. What will you forego? It's like I was programming myself. What will you forego, right? In that chapter, it asks, what will you forego today for the life you wish to live tomorrow, right? What will you forego today for the life you wish to live tomorrow? Notice this connects right back to pillar number 2, sacrifice, right? In the book doesn't let you finish without forcing you to answer that question concretely. What you're willing to give up, not hypothetically, but today. This chapter has no soft landing to it. It's built to be uncomfortable, and it's built that way on purpose. This is also the section of book 1 most directly built from the live broadcast material, right? Which is why longtime listeners of this show would hear echoes of segments where we've run over the years, threaded through those four chapters, right? The Fired Up Train Experience isn't theoretical content added to the pad of the book. It's the show converted into permanent structured form, right? And by the time you finish part 3, you've gone through identity, you've gone through systems, you've gone through integrations, right? You've gone through all 6 pillars. And now the emotional and momentum infrastructure required to actually keep the train moving once the initial ignition from part 1 has worn off. That's the complete architecture of book 1, cover to cover, right? Cover to cover. Now, let's get on board the train. Let's get on board the train, baby. Let's get to the next destination. The bestseller moment, right? The bestseller moment. Let's talk about it, right? And here's where the cost from segment 2 met the result, right? Because on March 12th, 2026 of this year, GOTIME All Aboard the Fired Up Train hit Amazon bestseller status, right? And I want you to sit in that date for a second, because it's not just a marketing line. That same date, March 12, 2026, is also when season 4 of this podcast, The Rebirth, launched at episode number 201. With the good sir, Frank Zakari. Shout out to Frank Zakari, right? Of Trust the Process. And he was our first special guest of the season. The book, the season launch, all happened on the same day. And that's not a coincidence. I planned for effect. That's just how the timelines actually converged. And it tells you something about how tightly the book, the podcast, and its whole platform are wired together. The framework worked, not in theory, in market reality. A book built entirely around engineered character transformation, no shortcuts, no accidental success language, hit number 1, or I should say, hit bestseller, right? That validates every uncomfortable chapter in part 2. It validates the sacrifice pillar. It validates the forego today challenge that closes part 3. And I want to read you the review that's carried more of this book word of mouth than any single piece of marketing I've put out. A reader wrote, and I quote, right? Grab your assigned seats. Sit back and be inspired and motivated. This book's a keeper. It prepares you for liftoff from stagnancy and laziness to productivity like you've never seen before. Look, you can go on Amazon right now. Look, you can go on Amazon right now to read the reviews, right? That review does something the marketing copy never fully captured. It names the actual transition, stagnancy and laziness to productivity. And plain language, no jargon, no framework, just honest experience of what the book did for one reader. And that's the review that ended up anchoring the back cover of GOTIME 2, because it's the review that told the truth. It told the truth about what book 1 actually delivers when somebody works the whole system front to back, right? Bestseller status isn't the point of the segment, right? The point is what bestseller status proved. It proved the 6 pillars aren't just internally coherent. They're externally effective. People who had never heard of this podcast, who came to the book cold, went through part 1's identity revolution, part 2's 6 pillars, part 3's fired up training experience, and came out the other side different enough to leave that kind of review. That's the bar, right? And that's the bar GOTIME 2 had to clear. Not just live up to, or the framework internal's logic, but live up to with what readers prove that the framework could do for people who never sat in the chair with us before, right? Now, let's get to the next destination. Next destination, the uncomfortable verdict, right? Let's get to it. Let's get to it, right? Because every episode of this show has a moment where we stop selling and start telling the truth. And here's tonight's uncomfortable verdict. GOTIME 1 is this. The 6 pillars framework only works if you actually run all 6. Not 4, not the comfortable ones, but all 6 in sequence, including the ones that cost you something. And I'll tell you exactly where I've watched people stall, because I've watched it happen more than once. And it's pillars 2, sacrifice, strategic resource allocation. People will read motivation in chapter 4 and feel fired up. They'll nod through the consistency, perseverance, persistence, and resilience, because those pillars, as hard as they are, don't ask you to give up anything right away. That ask, right? That ask to keep you going, right? Because Sacrifice. Sacrifice is different. Sacrifice asks you to stop doing something or stop having something. Before you've seen any proof, the trade is going to pay off. That's the pillar where the book stops being aspirational and starts being a mirror. It's like real faith, right? You got to have faith in a mustard seed, right? And that's exactly the pillar where I watch people quietly close the book and go back to pillar one's motivation instead. Because the motivation feels good and the sacrifice doesn't. And here's the uncomfortable part I need to say out loud right now, right? And say it direct, right? Right here in the chair. This isn't, I'm not burning, this is not, what I'm about to say isn't burned in the chapter, right? Because if you read Go Time 1 and you're still standing exactly where you were before you read it, it's not because the framework doesn't work. Go back and check which pillar you actually skipped. 90% of the time, when someone tells me the book didn't move the needle for them, it traces back to pillar 2. They engineered the drive. They just never allocated the resource. And this isn't a criticism of the reader. It's the honest mechanics of why 6-pillar system has one pillar that's structurally harder than the other 5. And pretending otherwise will be dishonest to what the book is actually asking you. I'm bringing this up tonight in the middle of right now in this show as a recap, right? Because Go Time 2 assumes you've cleared that hurdle. Book number 2 is built on the premise that character is already under construction. If pillar 2 never got run, book 2's building blocks doesn't have a foundational chance to sit on. So before we cross that bridge into Go Time 2 in the next segment, I want you to actually check which pillar did you skip. Go back, run it back, right? Lock in and run it back for real. Then come back and do this recap. And then you keep going, right? Then you keep going. Now, next destination. Let's talk about the bridge. Let's talk about the bridge and why Go Time 2 had to exist, right? Because the preface of Go Time 2 opens with 4 words that are also the book's whole thesis. The train has left the station. That's also our brass tacks of the evening, right? That's not just a callback to book 1's title. It's a statement about timing. The train didn't leave the station when Go Time 1 published. It left the station once readers actually started running the 6 pillars for real. Go Time 2 exists because once people started doing that, one character work actually started happening. A new question started showing up constantly. And it wasn't a question that the first book was built to answer. The question was some version of, and I quote, I've built character. Now what? I've engineered motivation, allocated sacrifice, built consistency, developed perseverance and persistence. And I'm becoming anti-fragile through resilience. What do I actually build with all of that, right? Go Time 2 was tier 1. Who you be, right? It was never designed to answer what you build or how you execute. That's not a gap in the first book. That's the first book staying disciplined about its own lane. The same way we talked about what we were talking about not too long ago, right? Now, Go Times 2 preface makes this handoff explicit. It walks through Go Times 1's foundation, the 6 pillars of success. And then it introduces what book 2 is actually built around, the 6 building blocks of reward. Notice the shift in language. Book 1 talks about success. Book 2 talks about reward. That's deliberate. Success is the internal state. Reward is what you actually receive once that internal state gets converted into capability and execution, right? Now, I see y'all in here, man. DJ Smiley. I see y'all, man. I see y'all. Thank you for joining us and a few others. Man, I see you, right? The preface also lays out the book structure directly. Because tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 is about conforming that GOTIME 2 isn't a standalone sequel with its own separate framework. It's the next tier of the same architecture GOTIME 1 opened. And there's a warning built into the preface also. While I think it's important to name it right now, the book is explicit that these building blocks require actual implementation. Reading about reward doesn't produce reward, right? Reading about reward, it doesn't produce reward. That warning exists for the same reason that the sacrifice pillar exists in book 1. Because frameworks only work when they get run, not just read, right? So here's the bridge. Here's the bridge, plain English, right? GOTIME 1 built who you are. GOTIME 2 exists to build what you're capable of building with who you've become, right? Who you've become. The train didn't leave the station because a marketing calendar said it was time for a sequel. It left the station because the readers who did the work in book 1 were already standing on the platform asking what comes next. And book 2 is the answer to that exact question, right? Now, let's get on board and get ready to get to the next destination. Next destination, all aboard, the 6 building blocks of reward, right? Next destination. So, part 1 of GOTIME 2 is 7 chapters. You will see that when you get the book, right? 6 building blocks plus a closing strategic integration chapter, mirroring the shape of book 1's 6 pillars section almost exactly. But this is tier 2, what you build, right? Because chapter 1 is the foundation of reward, subtitled Vision Clarity. Same pattern as book 1, foundation first. But before any of the other blocks can hold weight, your vision has to be clear, not aspirational, not vague. You must have clarity. You must be clear. Your intent must be solid, right? Chapter 2 is discipline of reward, discipline architecture. Where book 1's consistency pillar talked about compound interest, this chapter goes a layer deeper into the actual architecture of discipline itself. The structure underneath the habit, not just the habit, right? And then there's chapter 3, vision of reward, right? Skill supremacy. This is where the book gets specific about capabilities in a way book 1 never did. Because skill supremacy means competence at a level that becomes a genuine competitive advantage, not just adequate performance, right? Now, chapter 4, action of reward, right? Relationship capital. This block is doing something book 1 didn't touch on at all, directly at least, right? Treating relationships as capital, right? An actual buildable asset, not a soft afterthought to the harder pillars. And I said this about 30 years ago, man. I said relationships is the new capital. Shout out to Johnny Rio, man. If you watch it, man, shout out to Johnny Rio. He said, man, you should coin that. You should coin that. I said it 30 years ago. Relationships is the new currency, right? Now, chapter 6 is legacy of reward, right? We're talking about physical vitality, right? And this is arguably the most unexpected building block because most success frameworks treat physical health as separate from achievement. This book folds it directly into the reward architecture, framing vitality itself as something you build and are rewarded for. not just a background condition, right? And then there's chapter 7. Chapter 7 does closes part 1 with strategic integration, right? The same integration move that book 1 made in chapter 3 with the integration matrix, except this time it's integrating 6 building blocks instead of identity and systems. And here's what's worth naming right now, right? On air. Because vision clarity, financial foundation, physical fertility, relationship capital, none of them appeared as chapters in book 1. That's the proof of GOTIME 2, right? It's not about repackaging the first book with new chapter names. It's genuinely extending the architecture into territory book 1 never claimed to cover. Character built the platform, and these 6 building blocks are what actually gets constructed on top of it, right? So, I'm going over. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Stay with me. Stay with me. I didn't stay with me, right? GOTIME 2. Now we got the deep dive chapters, right? Because after the building blocks and the strategic integration chapter, GOTIME 2 does something book 1 didn't. It stops and goes deeper before moving forward. Chapters 8 through 10 are labeled directly as the deep dive chapters, and they exist for one specific reason. Naming a building block isn't the same as knowing how to build it, right? Now, I want to explain that to you, right? But because it's meaningful, it's structurally built the way it is by choice, right? Because if you notice, the deep dive chapters only revisit 3 of the 7 other chapters, right? And that's not an oversight. That's something that I like to call a mirror, right? And it's something that we talked about early on, right? And it's worth me telling you right now, I'm telling you, right? I need you to go get GOTIME 2 so we can have that conversation, right? We can have that conversation on vision clarity, discipline architecture, integration, right? Because everything else in the book, including the protection and warfare systems, we're covering in a few, we're gonna finish talking about it, right? But yeah, I'm gonna give you the master class, man. I'm gonna give you the master class. Next destination. Next destination is GOTIME 2, the foundation phase revisited, right? All aboard the fire train. And listen, here's something that surprises most people when they first see the table of contents for GOTIME 2, right? Because part 2 isn't new material. It loops back through tier 1 territory, right? It talks about chapter 11, discovering your why. Chapter 12, the 6 pillars of success, re-anchored directly into this book, right? Chapter 13 is cornerstone of magnificence, right? Right? And I want to be direct about why this matters. Because on the surface, it might look like the book might be recapping or repeating itself, but it's important in structural, or I should say structural signals for the entire trilogy, right? Book 2 refuses to refuses to allow tier 2 capability without retouching tier 1. You have to know what we're talking about. So I'll give you the little breadcrumbs so you can eat, right? So you can eat. Now, part 2 isn't filler, right? And it isn't repetition for padding. It's a structural reinforcement positioned deliberately between the building blocks of reward in part 1 and the protection and warfare system in part 3, functioning as the load-bearing wall between what you build and how you defend it. Nothing in a well-engineered structure gets built without a foundation check at every new floor, right? And that's exactly what part 2 is doing at that moment, right? So let's talk about something that we just touched on just a little bit, right? Let's talk about protection and warfare systems. All aboard the fire train, next destination, protection and warfare, right? So part 3 is the most tactical session of the entire trilogy so far, and it's titled directly Protection and Warfare Systems, right? The 5 systems of sovereignty, right? The 4 weapons of warfare, and why these systems need each other, right? This is the integration move, right? Integration move. 5 systems, 4 weapons, right? That chapter is explicit about the sovereignty and warfare that you need to operate together, not as separate toolkits, right? That's what it's about. And I want to flag something important for you guys, right? As we get, give me 10 minutes. I want to flag something, right? Segment 1 promised we wouldn't touch on GOTIME 3, right? And I've been keeping that promise. But I need you to hear that GOTIME 2 itself opens the door narrowly on its final pages into GOTIME 3. And that's not speculation, right? I'm letting you guys know that the book's own structure is telling you that Tier 3, Book 3 is on its way. Book 1 is the closing challenge, and there's a closing challenge in chapter 13, which set up the entire premise for Book 2. So here where the architecture stands after 18 chapters across 2 books. Tier 1, who you be, built through the 6 pillars. Tier 2, what you built through the 6 building blocks of reward and defended through the 5 systems of sovereignty and the 4 weapons of warfare. And Tier 3, how you dominate. Yes, how you dominate. Which acknowledges, is acknowledges, and it is acknowledged, previewed, and not yet delivered, right? So, let's talk about where the train stands. Let's talk about where the train stands and right? That's where we're going. We're going to the station where the train stands, right? Let's land this in the present tense, right? Exactly as it stands right now, this moment, tonight, with no spin, right? GOTIME 2 is not dropped yet. It's coming. It should be out this week. All right, I want to let you guys know. But the recap is not a look back at a finished release. It is the runway. Everything we've walked through tonight, the 6 building blocks of reward, the deep dive chapters, the Tier 1 foundation phase, all revisited. The protection and warfare systems of Tier 3 preview in chapter 18. All of it coming, right? All of it coming. The title itself carries the tension of what I just said. The train has left the station is a promise about motion, not yet a confirmation of arrival. That's the right way to hold that thought process tonight, right? The train is moving. It's still moving. I haven't gotten off the train yet. It is still moving. Ask my mama. Ask my mama. She'll tell you the train is still moving. Shout out to T-Biscuit. Right? The train ain't moving. She be like, boy, the train need to stop moving. I'm like, boy, I can't. The coal is on fire. The train is fired up. Let's keep going, right? Look. The title itself carries that tension, right? The train is moving. The station is behind it. But we're not yet standing at the platform when it pulls in, right? And I'm not going to give you a hard release date yet, right? Because I don't have one to lock in, right? But I really do. But I want to make sure that you'll know, right? You'll know. You'll know by tomorrow, right? And this show doesn't manufacture false urgencies. We don't do that here, right? We don't talk about dates that aren't real. But what I can tell you that it's already been completed on the production side. The covers are done, the content's done, the publisher acquisition package is done, the full launch strategy is done. The infrastructure around the release is built. What's left is the release itself. Now, here's what I want you to do with that information I just gave you, right? If you've read GOTIME 1 and you've been wanting to see whether Book 2 lives up to it, tonight's recap should have answered that. The architecture holds 6 pillars into 6 building blocks into 5 systems of sovereignty and 4 weapons of warfare, with a genuine tier 3 preview sitting at the end of it. This isn't a sequel that repeats the first book of a new package. It's a real extension of the same engineering structure. And if you haven't read GOTIME 1 yet, Final Bosses, Smarts, Motivators, Warriors, tonight was your own ramp. You know how the 6 pillars name. You know them by name. You know where readers typically stall. I told you. And which one to watch for later on when you read it. You know what's waiting for you in book 2 once you've done that work. You already know. The train hasn't pulled into the next station yet, but it's left the last one, right? It's not slowing down. So stay tuned and listen for the release announcement. Maybe I'll let you guys know tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow, right? And you're gonna hear it here first, right? Not through hype, but the same way we've handled everything else on here, every milestone, right here, right? I'm almost done, right? Next up, the call to action. Next destination, next station, the call to action, right? Now let me bring this on home. Let me bring it on home, right? Final Boss family, tonight we rode the full line. GOTIME 1, the premise, the foundation, the 6 pillars, the fired up training experience, the bestseller moment that proved the framework works in the real world, not just on that page. Then we crossed the bridge into GOTIME 2, the 6 building blocks of reward, the deep dive chapters that go deeper into the 3 load bearing blocks, the return of tier 1 foundation to make sure nothing was left unfinished, and the protection and warfare systems that are the most tactical material the trilogy has produced to date. And here's the architecture. One more time, right? One more time for you guys, plain and complete. GOTIME 1 or tier 1, who you be, built, published, proven, number 1. Tier 2, what you build, fully mapped, fully written, not yet released. Tier 3, how you dominate, is previewed, named, not yet built for you guys, right? If you read book 1, and get ready, book 2 is coming, and after tonight, you already know its architecture before it even drops. That's not a small thing. Most readers meet a sequel code. You're not going to. If you read both books, but when you get a chance to read the second book, then tonight was your anchor, right? Go back and check yourself honestly against segment 8. Which pillar did you actually skip? Which building block did you name but never build? The recap doesn't do the work for you. It just makes sure you know exactly what work is still sitting there to be built. And if this is your first time hearing any of this tonight, then welcome. GOTIME, all aboard the fired up train, is available right now. Start there. Everything we've covered tonight will make a lot more sense once you've actually written that first leg of the line yourself. The train hasn't reached the next station yet, but it's already left the last one behind, and it's not turning back. Final Bosses, Smarts, Motivators, Warriors, that's tonight's episode. Your go time is now, baby. Let's go. Thank you for joining us. That is the end of the episode. This has been season 4, arc 5, season 4, the rebirth, arc 5, the declaration, episode number 282, baby. 282, the GOTIME rebirth recap, right? And as always, right? There's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but there's even a heavier pain that comes with regret, right? I am here. We are here. As always, be balanced, be equal, and be smart. And if I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, Good evening and good night. That is our show. That is our show. Thank you for joining us. You guys have a great evening, and I'll see you again tomorrow for Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday.